Hello everyone, it's time for another instalment of our story, Time Travelling with the Hamster. Okay then, here we go. When I got back, Alan Shearer was asleep and Mum tells me not to wake him. My book says that hamsters are crepuscular creatures, which I think means sleepy. So I just sit for a bit and watch him sleep. I try accidentally bumping the bit of Amsterdam where he's sleeping to see if he wakes, but he doesn't. The letter from my dad is still in my school bag. I am itching to get it out, but at the same time, I don't dare to, just in case I'm disappointed. Steve comes back from work. "Hey, champ," he says. "Glad you like the shirt." I had put it on to please him. Well, actually, to please Mum, really, because I knew that she'd be happy if I liked the thing that Steve had got for me. He goes straight to the TV. Newcastle United under-21s are playing in some European game with a team whose name I have just forgotten. "Come on, son, they're about to kick off." He pats the sofa next to him. You know what? I think I've got homework to do." I hold up the memory stick on my keyring that I keep my homework on and back out of the sitting room. It isn't fast enough, though, to avoid a glimpse of Steve's crestfallen face. "But it's Dortmund, the Germans," he calls after me. A bit sadly, I think. That's the thing with Steve. It's so obvious that he wants me to be the son he hasn't got. But even if I was his son, there's no guarantee I'd like football. I mean, take Daniel Somerset in my old class. His dad does brilliant magic tricks and once made a coloured hanky appear in my pocket at a party. Daniel thought the whole idea of magic tricks was totally lame, but his dad didn't seem to care and even went off for weekends with other amateur magicians, but he didn't drag Daniel along with him every time. So I'm up in my room, lying on my bed, trying to read Grandpa Byron's book, and the letter is now propped up against my clock. By midnight, the 16 hours will be up. I can't concentrate on the book. It's not like it's boring or anything. It's just that Grandpa Byron wrote it years and years ago, so the language is a bit difficult, and there are no memory tricks or anything. I just haven't quite grasped it. So I put the book down carefully, marking the page I've got with a bookmark. Normally, I would just fold a corner over, but as this is the last remaining book by Grandpa Byron, I didn't think he'd like that. I turn to stare at the letter again. I stare for ages, then reach out and pick it up as I lie with my head on the pillow. Dad's instructions say not to open it until 16 hours after I receive it. But surely a few hours won't make a difference. "Al," Mum calls from the kitchen. "Dinner." I sigh and put the letter down again on my bedside table, then go upstairs. Because it's my birthday, Mum has made lasagna. She's been trying to ring Carly to come back for supper, but she's got her mobile switched off again. Steve's phone is on the counter and it pings with a text. "She's with that Jolyon Dancy again," says Mum, reading the screen. I can't tell whether she's pleased or not. "Is that her boyfriend?" she asks me. "Well, how would I know? Where Carly and Jolyon are concerned, I figure it's wise to steer a very cautious path. I just think it would be nice if she'd come home for her stepbrother's birthday supper." I say nothing, using a large mouthful of lasagna as cover. Mum has timed the serving up for half-time as Steve joins us. "Nil-nil," he says. I grunt and raise my eyebrows in pretend interest. Come bedtime, I still haven't opened the letter, but I'm wide awake when I hear Carly's key in the door at 10:30. And then there are raised voices, hers and Steve's, from downstairs. By 11 o'clock, I'm dizzy with tiredness, and I can't wait any longer. I reach for the envelope from my bedside table, and 1 hour sooner than I should, I ease my little finger under the glued down flap. "Dear Al, with luck you won't even be reading this." And that, I reckon, is the oddest start to a letter I will ever read. No, "How are you?" or anything like that. Anyway, but let us assume that you are. I have given this letter to your mum to hand to you when you are older. Did you wait the 16 hours? I sort of shake my head and reply to the question like he can see me. That was just a test of your resolve. If you did, then well done. You may find what I am about to ask a little easier. If you didn't, well, I'd still like you to do it. If you are reading this, then what I fear will happen has happened, and that means I am not around to help you into adulthood. This then will be the only gift I can give to you, my most precious son. First, let me reassure you, I am not scared of dying, although it makes me sad to think of the times we will miss together. I won't see you going up to secondary school, or graduating from university, or marrying, and becoming a father yourself. These are the big things, yet it is the small things, the tiny little things that make me sadder. I love your smile, and our shared jokes, and the way you liked my lousy stories. I love the smell of your hair when I hug you, and the way you are so glad to be awake in the mornings. Yet all these things may not be gone forever, for if you follow my instructions, and if you are as brave and smart as I think you are, then you will be able to prevent my death. Right now, as I'm writing this, you are just 8. I'm far too young to understand the implications of what I am about to tell you. You have had to wait, and now the time is right. You are about to learn, Al, how to travel in time. At this point, I stop and reread what I've just read. Prevent my death? Travel in time? What in goodness name is my dad talking about? The ability to travel in time has fascinated humans ever since we came up with the idea of time itself. Just imagine, Al, if we could go forward in time to see what happens in the future, or go back and correct our own mistakes. The Greeks, the Egyptians, the Chinese, all the ancient civilizations tried. The ancient Sumerians, who lived in what is now Iraq, between maybe 4,000 and 6,000 years ago, left behind texts and archaeological evidence that suggests they discovered the secret. Trouble is, it was so long ago that the answer, if it was real and not just mythology, has been lost to us. I have recently had a huge breakthrough using the power of modern computing, which was unavailable to the ancients. Al, are you ready to travel in time? Are you? Would I be? I don't know. No, Al, this is not science fiction, and you will not be battling strange monsters in far galaxies. Instead, it is mathematics, pure, very, very far from simple. For I have discovered the formula that allows for the physical movement, travel we might call it, between parallel dimensions, allowing us to seem to be travelling in time. Notice that I say seem. You see, as Albert Einstein first described it, time is relative. I'm sure you've heard of Einstein's general theory of relativity. Well, there was another one too, his special theory of relativity. One day perhaps you will understand them, for believe me, they are fabulously complex. We all happily acknowledge Albert Einstein as a genius, but very few of us have any idea at all of just how amazing his discoveries were. Our brains and our thoughts are so firmly rooted in our lives on Earth that most of us are simply unable, unequipped mentally, to imagine the true meaning of Einstein's theories. I pause in my reading and look at the Newcastle United team poster that Steve put on my wall, as if it might help me, but the players just stare back at me blankly. Of course I've heard of Albert Einstein. After all, I was named after him. Wild hair, bushy moustache, a completely mad scientist, and a nickname at school for anyone a bit clever. And yes, I've heard of the theory of relativity, but I thought there was only one, and I had no idea what any of it meant. It's like a goldfish in an aquarium. He might understand everything there is to know about his environment, every rock, every stone, every bubble. He may even understand that when the rattling vibration comes from above, the lid of the aquarium being lifted off, then that means that food is coming. But he doesn't know what people are, what cars are, what a fruit smoothie is, what a cup-winning goal looks like, or what any of it means. And that's simply because he cannot. A goldfish's brain can't even imagine these things, and most human brains cannot even imagine the vast possibilities that Einstein's theories suggest. Don't worry, Al, I'm not going to try to explain relativity to you. Even Einstein had trouble putting it into words. The best he came up with was this. Put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and it feels like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That's relativity. Was Einstein being serious? Well, perhaps, sort of. His point was this, that the passage of time is something that we see and feel, and because we see and feel it, we describe it. But just because we can describe something does not make it real. You, no doubt, could give a vivid description of an imaginary animal, but that doesn't make it real. Travelling in time is a poor description of what you are about to do, Al, but we are constricted by the words we have in our language. Relatively shifting between space-time dimensions is perhaps more accurate, or non-gravitational multiversal static matter repositioning, or, see what I mean? Time travel will just have to do. Do you remember that time we went to sea houses and the night was so starry and I told you about seeing things that happened many years ago? That was only a few weeks ago as I write this, but I hope you can remember. I put Dad's letter down for a moment and think, closing my eyes. We're in a field, me and Dad, looking at the stars, and it just makes me smile. Now read carefully. This is what you must do. In the garage of our house there's a hole covered over with boards. It leads to a small cellar, and there are steps down into it. This was our old house then. Obviously Dad had no idea we'd been moving house. I read on, but I'm getting worried that I won't be able to do what he wants me to. It's a small narrow cellar, and at one end is a heavy metal door with a wheel to open and close it, like they have in submarines. There's a code on the lock. It's 5021, your birthday backwards. No one else knows this. Open the door and go in. You'll find letter number 2 taped under the desk. Trust me, like you have never trusted anyone before in your life. Things will become clearer. Make absolutely sure no one sees you. Your loving Dad. P.S. You must act within 1 week of reading this. I read the letter again and then again. The 4th time something strange happens, and it's as if I'm not reading with my eyes, but with my ears. And instead of seeing the words, I can hear my Dad's voice, soft but a little raspy, his slight Geordie accent, his habit of sometimes going up at the end of the sentences, like he was asking a question. I imagine our old house, the garage with cellar steps, and I just lie staring at the ceiling in a kind of trance, and I'm with my Dad in our old house. I'm not 8, I'm me, now I'm 12. I can smell him, and I can hear him, and he's asking me again, Al, are you ready to travel in time? And I can feel his hand on my cheek. For the first time in 4 years, I fall asleep in my Dad's arms. Well, that was lovely, Maple Learning Zone. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I will catch up again with you. Bye for now.